Have you ever wondered how you can achieve this mermaid skirt on your screen? This beautiful mermaid skirt that just makes the down part of your dress to be flowing so nice? Well, if this sounds like something that you would like to learn, then this tutorial is for you. If you want to know how we arrived at this pattern, then stay tuned and let's dive into the class. Hey soulmates, my name is Tekla and today we are going to learn how to make this beautiful mermaid skirts. So stay tuned and let's know whether this is something that you would like to try out for your dress. I'll be using the skirt aching techniques to achieve my mermaid skirts, so I would like you to stay tuned, and if you enjoyed this tutorial, please remember to like. So this is my pattern paper and I divided it into two. I am on my table right now, but in a short while we are going to get to the floor. So this is my pattern paper and I divided it into two because I am trying to draft a pencil skirt first. And this pencil skirt, I am going to draft the front and the back pattern together. So I just brought my pattern paper to mark my waist to my knee and then my waist to my hip as well. Some people, when you're working on this, you need to check client's height. For me, I used about 19 inches from my waist to my knee. So the client I'm working with is about average height. It depends on your height or the height of your client. For me, I use 19. You can use 20 or you can even use 18. Depends on how short the person I'm working with is average height. So I now went ahead to label my pattern. This is my waistline, this is my hip line, and then my knee line. And remember that my pattern is divided into two. So on the other side of my pattern, I am going to go ahead and then measure out my waist. Assuming the waist you are working with is about 28, you divide it by 4, which is 7, and then you mark down the 7 on your hip. Assuming your hip is about 40, you divide it by 4 and then mark it down on your hip. And then on your knee, what you're going to do is that you are going to minus 1.5 inches from your actual hip measurement. I repeat, minus 1.5 inches. Some do minus 2, but for me 1.5 is just enough. So minus 1.5 inches from your actual hip measurements, and then you now put it down as your knee measurement. Assuming your hip is 10 inches, when you divide it by 4, then on your knee you are going to have about 8.5. Then on my hip measurement, I came up by 1 inch and also came down by 1 inch as well. I'm just doing this to have a very good curve. You can just decide to use your curved ruler and connect it like so. So now that I have that, you can see what I have there. I am now going to measure what I have on my knee line. And that same thing that I have on my knee line, I am going to extend it to the length of my pattern paper. You can see that I didn't reduce anything from the knee line. So I just extended the same thing downwards to my pattern paper. And I'm now going to go ahead and connect it together. So guys, are you enjoying this video? Please give us a thumbs up right away. Yes, just hit on the like button. Thank you for that. So now that I have connected that together, I am now going to go ahead and divide what I have on my knee by 2. You can see the way I am doing that. I am going to divide, let's say you have 8 inches on your knee. If you divide it by 2, it will be 4. Then you mark the center of that. You also divide and impute the same thing on the down part of this. So assuming your knee is 8, you divide by 2, that's 4. You measure the length at the down part or the full length of your skirt, and then you measure it as well, and then you divide by 4. You divide by 2. So for me, I just measured the middle part and then I added that line that you are seeing there. So you can obviously see that the line started from my knee to my full length. It did not start from the hip. So this particular place that we drafted now is the front pattern, and right now we are going to move over to the back pattern. So I just went ahead to do exactly the same thing that I did for the front on the back hip, just the same measurements, the same everything. I got my hip line, my waistline, and then my knee line, and I went ahead to connect that together so that you can see that I am starting from the end of my pattern paper to measure this, and I'm measuring inwards. I am not starting from the middle parts of the line that I have. So I believe you understood everything. So on the waistline on my back, I came in by 1/2 inch. This is just to help snatch the back waist so that it doesn't look bulky or it doesn't have excess. And I connected it back to my hip line. You can see me taking out that 1/2 inch. So remember that I am not adding any allowance on this skirt. I am still going to add all allowance to the material when I'm sewing it. On my knee line, I came in by about 1 inch on my knee line. But first of all, I came down by 1.5 on my hip, and then from that 1.5, I'm going to connect it to the 1 inch on my heel line, on my knee line. So with time, I am still going to flesh this out. So at this point, we are trying to take out that excess bulk that always comes out when you are making your skirts. And then on the knee line, you just notice that the allowance is quite much, and this might not necessarily be what you want. So on my knee line, I came in by 1, and I'm just going to extend that 1 inch down to my full length, so you can see what I have. So guys, if you are a returning subscriber, you are welcome back to my channel. I'm happy to have you here. But if this is your first time coming to my channel, please hit the subscribe button right away, right now, so that you do not miss out any upcoming tutorial that we have. So I am also going to go ahead and divide what I have on my knee into 2. You can see where I started measuring it. I didn't start from the 1 inch that I've already taken out. I just measured what I have left after taking out the 1 inch. So I'm just going to divide that by 2, and then I'm going to then mark it out just the same way that I did for the front. And you can obviously see what we have on the pattern. So at this point, our back pattern and our front pattern is ready. So I just did this to draft out a very nice pencil skirt that we are going to use to now cut out our mermaid skirt. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and cut that out. And once that is done, you can see where I have my front pattern and then my back pattern. So I just went ahead to label that out, and then you can see what we have. You can see that the back pattern is different from the front pattern. So I'm going to take out the back pattern now so we can work on the front first before moving over to the back. So at that place that I divided into 2, I'm going to slash it out like so, and then I'm also going to slash to the side of it. So I just went ahead to label this. Sorry, that was a mistake. This is my side front. This is my side front, and then the other part is my center front. So I'm just going to go ahead right away and then slash to the tip of my side front. You will see that I didn't slash this through. You can see what I have. I just slashed to the tip on the side front. Please remember that this is not on the center. To the tip of my side front. And then I'm going to introduce a new pattern paper to now show you, so that we can actually put this measurement on the new pattern paper, because we've already slashed this out, to extend our pattern paper. So you can see the way I am moving the side front to the side. This totally depends on how wide you want your skirt to be. If you want it to flow very well, you can do this. If you want it to flow very well, I'm just expanding it. What I use to expand it is about 10 inches from the place of the center front, and I just use my gum to gum that down so it doesn't shift. If you have your masking tape, you can use that. So I'm just going to gum it down, and then From there, I extended my side front by 10 inches. This totally depends on the amount of fabric that you have. If your fabric is very big or you want this skirt to flow extremely well, you can extend by more than 10, but for me, I just extended by 10 inches. And also note the way I added my pattern paper so that you do not make any mistake. You can see the way I added my pattern paper and the way I extended it. So right now, I am going to go ahead and use my curved ruler to connect that line together like so. You can see the way I connected it because I'm trying to now use this to form an A-line skirt kind of basically. So I also recurved the knee parts on the side so that it doesn't have any issue. But because this pattern paper was short, I am going to extend the length of my skirt to reach the length that I want. So I'm just going to add extra 6 inches, measuring from the tip of that pattern paper down. Like the pattern paper was too short for the full length I want for this skirt. So this is just why I am extending it. This is totally optional. So assuming the length I was working with was 40, my pattern paper was about 34. That is just basically what I am trying to explain. So I just added that extra 6 inches. All I did was to extend from each tip by 6. And basically you can see how very demure the skirt is. You can see how nice it is. So I'm just going to go ahead and then literally cut that out. So right now we are going to move over to the back pattern. You can see that my front pattern, I've kept it aside, and we are going to move over to the back pattern right now. So I just went ahead to slash it exactly the same way that I did for the front. Do you understand? Just exactly the same thing. That is what I slashed. Then we are now going to introduce our new pattern paper, and then we are going to head and stick this down to it just the way we did for the front. So right now I'm still going to extend the back by that same 10 inches that we used for the front. So I'm just going to use that same 10 inches. Please make sure that these two sides are corresponding. Do not use 10 inches for the front and maybe for the back you now use another something. So I use 10 inches for my front, and then on the side back as well I still extended it by that same 10 inches, and I'll now go ahead to gum that down. So right now I am going to go ahead and then cut out that 1 inch that we extended our knee line with, that we came in with, and then I also cut out the 1/2 inch on the waist, and then I am going to introduce another new pattern to this. Remember that this is my new line, and then on my knee I came up by 4 inches. You can decide that you want your mermaid skirt to start from the knee, that tail effect. You can decide I want to start from the knee. For me, I came up by 4. You can come up by 5, you can come up by 2, by 3. It all depends where you want the extension to start from your back, and you know that the higher the extension, the more fabric you will use. So for me, I just came up by 4 inches on my knee line. Remember, it's on my knee line that you are coming up from. So from my knee line I came up by 4, and then I'm just going to introduce the pattern paper starting from that place that I came up by knee line. I came up by 4 inches on my knee line, and then you can see what we have. I'm also going to go ahead and extend the other side of my pattern paper just to make everything to sit well when we are drafting out our mermaid effect. And from here we moved down to the floor. This is because that table was no longer containing everything. So I measured from my knee line to the full length that I have, and it was about 23 inches. Guys, not on the full length of the pattern. From your exact knee line, you know that your knee line is about 19 inches from my waist. So from that knee line I measured to the full length of my pattern, just the full length where I added 6 inches. Assuming the full length you are working with is 40, measure from your knee line to that 40. What I have is about 23, not to the full length of the pattern, please. So you can see what I have there is about 23 inches. You saw the way I measured it. So at this point I was just trying to make sure that it's the same length I have from that place that I came up by 4 inches to the full length. I'm just trying to make cross check that that is the same thing that I have. Remember I came up by 4 inches on my knee. So from that 4 inches to my full length is just what I was cross checking to see that all of them is fine. While on my knee line I came out by 23, which is the measurement from my exact knee to my exact full length. That is what I used to extend it sideways, and then you can see what we have. I just used a dotted line to bring that out at the moment. So from that place that I came up by 4 inches on my knee line, I just measured the length from there and corresponded all my measurements. So this is now the part where you now extend based on what you want. You can see the way I am placing my ruler. So you now place your ruler how you want. You can even use this full pattern as a whole. Remember that when you curve this out, it's going to be like a half of a half circle. So you can still use it so that your flay would be so nice. Assuming you want to achieve this particular flay now that is on the screen, you don't need to cut that out. But for me, I am going to trim out some. You can see the way I'm placing my ruler from that place that I came up by 4 inches, and then I am now going to extend it down. So guys, have you liked this video? If you have not done that, please give us a thumbs up. Just use this moment to give us a thumbs up. And then so let's ride on. So you can see the way I extended my line. The good thing, you can even curve this your mermaid skirt from those dotted line that I have to this place that my new line now stopped. You can just curve it out from there and use it if you have that much fabric. But if you do not have it, then just cut out. If you're making it this thing, then you can do this. So at this point, you can just draw the line from wherever you want, whichever one you think is okay for you. For me, I decided to make mine shorter because I'm making, like, let's say an asoebi mermaid skirt. Assuming it's like a bridal wedding gown full skirt, I can just go ahead and then maybe make it bigger. So the bigger it is, the more you are going to use more fabric. So at this point I'm extending my ring light so that you can see what we have. So I was just adding extra pattern paper because we are still going to extend this thing down. You can see how many times I'm adding pattern paper just to make sure that this also aligns. So I just went ahead to gum that together. So after doing this, I'm going to use my curved ruler and then curve from the side of my skirt to the center part of my back. You can see I extended my line. If you want this to be longer, the tail to be longer or fuller, just extend it more. So I'm just going to place my curved ruler, and then this is what I have. At this point I didn't notice that my camera wasn't recording this, but I'll show you what we have. I'm just going to go ahead and redo it. So you can see the way I am placing my ruler. You can see where I start curving it out from. Like I just started somewhere from the tip of the skirt and I placed my curved ruler in a concave form. That is why when you see the skirt from the sides, it's looking very well and very curved. You can see how I am achieving that curve and the tail. So this was practically what I was doing. Like I was just placing it like this until I got my desired shape. So you just try to achieve something like this until you have the desired shape that you want. That was just what I was doing. So even at this point, I felt like, let me just curve this up a little bit. I came in a little bit from the initial line that I had. So you can see how this looks and how nice it is. So with this mermaid skirt now, you can achieve anything that you want. And then, just like I said, this tutorial is a pattern drafting tutorial, but I believe sometimes most people already knows how to achieve or how to sew down the skirt. So if you feel like you need a sewing tutorial, do you think I should drop a sewing tutorial of how you can sew this, how you can add your allowance, and then how you can stitch it together? If you think you need a sewing tutorial, tell us in the comments and I will do the sewing tutorial and upload. So if you think I should do a sewing tutorial, just tell us in the comments and I will get to that. So guys, if you haven't liked this video, then I do not know why, but please give us a like button. And if you think this video is valuable, you can give us a special thanks, a super thanks. It's showing right there on your screen. So I was very much happy to do this video and upload it, because sometimes people ask me, oh ma, how can I achieve this and how can I achieve that? So that is what led me to like do this sewing tutorial. So you can see how this thing is, and you know that this place that has a long triangular line is like the center back. So while cutting this out on your fabric, just recurve it very well. I'll still go ahead and recurve from that place to my hip so that we can have a nice curve kind of. So you can see what we have. So guys, check out other tutorials on our channel. You can see other wonderful videos that we have there. You can see the front and my back pattern. We have tutorials on corsets, hip padding, and so much more. So just check that out and I'll see you in a minute. Thank you so much for watching, and remember, this is Tekla. Bye.